Hello. Today I'm keeping on reading Horse Crazy. I started yesterday and I'm just about to go for a ride on my horse, Jackie Boy, so I thought I'd read it up here near the yards where and he can be in the background while I'm reading. So yesterday we met Bonnie and Sam, who live in Currawong Creek, and we met all the horses in the town. And we also met Drover, who's Sam's dad's horse. Sam's dad is Bill, the policeman. And Drover is a lovely police horse, but she's a very unfriendly horse. So we finished off with saying it didn't bother Bill that she was unfriendly and restless in her paddock. He just wanted a horse that did the job, and Drover did it. Together, Bill and Drover herded Wally Webster's sheep back into their paddock when they wandered through the town in the middle of the night. They did it so quietly that Mrs. Green never knew what had eaten her roses and gladioli. When Tom Morgan's bad-tempered bull went rampaging through the town, Bill and Drover stopped him. Bill cracked his whip and Drover ducked away from the bull's fearsome horns. Together they forced the brute back to his yard. And when Mrs. Kowalski's kitten got stuck up a tree, Drover stood steady while Bill fetched her down. "She's the best horse I've ever owned," Bill said to Sam. "I've had her for 3 weeks now and she hasn't put a foot wrong." Then you can see Bill standing on Drover's back, reaching up to get the kitten. She does seem like a good horse. But Drover wasn't a great horse for Bonnie and Sam. One Saturday afternoon when Bill was away, they decided to ride her. The girls were used to all the Currawong Creek horses liking them, not Drover. When she bucked Sam off, they thought Sam's jump up had frightened her. But when Bonnie slid gently on from a stump, the same thing happened. A swish of mane, a stamp of hooves, and Bonnie was on the ground. The girls both tried until they were sore and sick of it. And look, Bonnie went to hug Drover, but the mare pulled away. She doesn't even like us touching her. Sam pulled off her helmet and rubbed a grass stain on it. Smithy said she wasn't a kid's horse. Maybe she's only been ridden by a grown-up and we seem a bit weird. Maybe a kid did something mean and gave her that moon-shaped scar under her mane. Bonnie rolled up her trouser leg to inspect her own scar. "Oh well, I guess it's like people. Not everybody wants to be your friend." And here's some lovely drawings Roland has done of the girls getting bucked off. Looks like quite hard work, doesn't it? How are we going for time? Okay, this chapter is called Shadow. Late one night, Shadow the silver Brumby slipped through the gum trees, racing to catch up with the mob. She hated being last. Everywhere Shadow looked, she saw danger. The other wild horses trotted happily through the moonlit bush, but Shadow was afraid. Shadow had been born on a farm where she felt safe and secure. Then one day her mother pushed open a broken gate and took Shadow into the mountains, following the call of the Brumbies. From then on, Shadow was always tense and worried. Storms were Shadow's greatest fear. She hated the terrifying crash of thunder and the lightning that tore through Wild Dog Range. Most of all, she hated being afraid. Now the stallion who led the Brumbies plunged down the mountain, scattering rocks with the mob close behind. The smell of smoke and humans drifted through the trees. He was leading them to the town. This beautiful picture by Roland of the Brumbies galloping down from the mountains in the moonlight. The Brumbies trotted silently across the river flats. Lights glowed yellow through the mist and a dog barked, "Arf, arf, arf." They slowed to a walk, reaching down to snatch bites of sweet green grass. The stallion stopped still, quivering, ears forward. Then he pranced up to a fence, and Shadow saw what had lured him from the mountains. A beautiful silver-grey mare stood neck to neck with the Brumby stallion, breathing his scent. That mare was Drover. Suddenly the mare squealed and spun around, kicking. The stallion backed away and led his mob further along the creek. But Shadow stopped to stare at Drover. It was as though she was seeing her own reflection. They were identical. The two silver-grey mares moved to the fence like dancers coming together. Shadow gazed into the paddock with its shade trees, water trough and stable, so comfortable and safe. Drover looked past Shadow at the Brumbies grazing by the river, free to race back to their wild mountain home. Both horses saw the life they wanted, with only a fence in their way. The stallion trotted back from the creek, snorting and driving Shadow away. With a fierce cry, he led the mob back into the hills, leaving Drover alone in her paddock. The sound of the wild horses disappearing into the bush made Drover feel as though she were in jail. Her hooves kicked up tiny puffs of dust as she paced along the fence. Her ears strained to hear the brumbies. One set of hoofbeats sounded strangely closer. Then, like a ghost appearing from the darkness, Shadow burst out of the night and trotted up to Drover. Neck to neck they stood, nuzzling each other's withers. There they are. Then Shadow wheeled away, cantered back and flew over the fence like a bird. Drover's heart lifted as the Brumby jumped into her paddock. It looked so easy, so effortless. She knew she could do it too. Shadow and Drover danced together, twisting and spinning in the moonlight. If Sam had looked out her bedroom window just then, she would have thought she was dreaming. The horses cantered in a circle side by side. Then Shadow peeled away while Drover raced straight for the fence, soared over with room to spare, whinnied and galloped away into the night. Shadow turned and looked around her new paddock. She gave a sigh and felt a delicious peace come over her. She was home. I think we better stop there. The next chapter says new Drover. So let's see what happens when the girls wake up, and will they know that it's not Drover in the paddock anymore? It's Shadow. Okay, bye everyone. I'm off for a ride. Thanks for listening.